Milwaukee nipped the Red Sox 3-2. The Cubs scored a 3-1 win at Wrigley over the Rockies. The Orioles beat the Cardinals 5-2. Shohei Ohtani hit a leadoff homer for the second straight game as the Dodgers beat the Guardians 7-2. The Reds over the Royals 7-4. The Mets beat the White Sox 2-1. Tampa scored a 7-2 win at home over the Twins. The Diamondbacks shut out the Pirates 5-0. Ryan Nelson went 6 2/3 as 4 hits allowed, 4 strikeouts. In 11 innings, the Padres beat the Marlins 4-3. San Diego scored the winning run on a wild pitch. The Yankees beat the Angels 5-1. 7 strikeouts in the victory for Ryan Yarbrough. NBA, the Thunder beat the T-Wolves 128-126 to go up 3-1 in the West Final. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MOVE to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MOVE for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MOVE for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
You don't have to sink a 30-footer from the end of your driveway to come out of the NBA playoffs smelling like a rose. Sports Grid brings you all the angles, insights, and odds.
And more to make you a winner.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the Sports Grid Radio Network, Sirius XM Channel 159.
And we're live with you here on Sports Grid Radio. It is Moneyline on this Tuesday, coming off of a Memorial Day weekend. Hope everybody out there enjoyed. If you did have a little bit of extra time off, some decent weather, so you can't be mad at that. Solo style with you here for the next hour is Donnie, and a few times this week we'll be out on assignment working from our New Jersey studios, but DRS will be back in your lives tomorrow, so have no worry. Today we will get into some hoops, of course. We'll talk a little Major League Baseball, but I want to start this show, and of course, again, we're here on Sirius XM Channel 159. Make sure you're following us over on Twitter at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid Radio, and then right there on YouTube, SportsGrid On Demand, and get in the always coveted chat box. Let us know that you're here watching. Any questions that you may have, we can answer throughout this next hour. Maybe you'll have a question or two around the college football world. I know I do. College football, the EA Sports game 26, released its cover. The deluxe edition, they also released their straight-up cover. The deluxe edition has a lot of people on it. The straight-up cover, just 2. Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. And I see that. And look, they're both stars. Trust me, this is not about to be I can't believe who they just put on the cover thing. It's who they chose and what it might suggest for the next couple of seasons, the next couple of years for college football. Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, Smith off the national championship, and legitimately feeling like the best player in college in his freshman season. Ryan Williams feeling not all that far behind with his unbelievable speed. Everybody remembers the game against Georgia. And Williams, again, in his freshman season, So right away, again, for me, it's like, wow, your cover athletes will be in the game next year. And that's great from a video game perspective, but from a college football perspective, this is really good for their game. The dream scenario, if you can have it, is when you have star retention. And that happens occasionally with guys coming back. And I mean opting to return. This is an instance, though, where these guys can't even leave, and they've already announced themselves. And this is where I then get to the deluxe version and that cover. Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith, front and center. At least 2 more years, likely just the 2. But of them playing at Alabama and Ohio State. Yeah, that'll do. That'll work. You've got Nick Singleton from Penn State, Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame. Those backs likely hit the NFL after the season. Caleb Downs should be a top 5 pick, the Ohio State safety. Sam Levitt's on there with the excellent season that we saw Arizona State have. You were not going to be able to turn it over to Cam Scadaboo. Here's the thing about Sam Levitt, though. He still technically is a freshman. He could come back, but I also believe Sam Levitt could leave. He could. Garrett Nussmeier makes the cut. Nuss is expected to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted. Cade Klubnik makes the cut, expected to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted. And then you continue to look, and maybe you can't identify him just by the face and the jersey. But there's DJ Lagway from Florida. Can't leave. At least 2 more season is what we're looking at from Lagway at Florida and potentially going to take the college football world by storm. South Carolina, that's Dylan Stewart. Dylan Stewart, if you had to put odds to go first overall in the 2027 draft, he might be booked as your favorite. The edge rusher who immediately set college football ablaze. Again, 2027 draft, he's going nowhere. He's huge. We saw him out at the Super Bowl, by the way. Crazy to think he's like 18. The Michigan one tripped me up for a second. That's Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood's never even played in college. Bryce has 3 years of college football in front of him. Hits the deluxe edition cover. This doesn't even include Arch Manning, who many project will return to college football beyond this coming season, your Heisman Trophy favorite. I look at this cover. That's where you go for your stars. And I know already that from this deluxe edition cover, College Football 27, you will have Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, DJ Lagway, Dylan Stewart, and Bryce Underwood. 5 superstars at huge programs. Respectfully, South Carolina's not Michigan, Florida, Ohio State, Bama, but still they're making their name. So 4 huge programs. And here's the deal. Arch Manning, people believe will play 2 more seasons at Texas. This is a college football world. You are talking about this sport opening things up with their college football expansion, immediately making some necessary tweaks that were obvious immediately. DRS and I hit that right here on Moneyline. But trending the right direction. There's a lot of stuff going on right now with the SEC and the Big Ten, and there needs to be a way to make sure that everyone stays inside the body, I think, of college football and, and clean that all up, because you don't want to mess this up. You do not want to mess up what feels like college football having a chance to, again, it's hard to beat out the NFL to lead a show, but on a split that usually is 90-10, 95-5, just start to close that gap during football season. Because year 3, Jeremiah Smith, and year 3, Ryan Williams, you know how noteworthy that's going to be, considering that year 2, Jeremiah Smith, and year 2, Ryan Williams made the lead on the lead cover of this game? I don't know, it fires me up. We're sitting here, we're talking college football video game covers, and you might think it's nothing. I think it's a lot more than nothing. I think it's a lot more than nothing. And it's not just those two. DJ Lagway at Florida. What's he going to be? Dylan Stewart, we know he's a star. Bryce Underwood makes the cut, hasn't even played a college game yet. Could be 3 years of star play at Michigan. And then the Arch Manning piece kind of hangs over the whole sport. Fun little start. We're with you right here on Moneyline.
Boys of summer have returned and taken the field for the great American pastime. You should monetize that. Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the Sports Grid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Wendy's. 10 people were shot at a holiday party in Little River, South Carolina on Sunday. Police in Horry County say a fight started on a private boat hosting a party, which led to a shooting on the dock. At least one person not hit by gunfire was hospitalized. Some of the 10 shot were in critical condition. Investigations are ongoing. Gas prices remained steady during the Memorial Day weekend as millions of Americans hit the roads. As of Sunday, the average cost of a gallon of regular gas in the U.S. was $3.18 a gallon, according to AAA. That's the lowest for Memorial Day prices since 2021. Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson has passed away. The Robertson family announced his death on social media Sunday at the age of 79. Robertson and his family were featured in the long-running reality series based in and around West Monroe, Louisiana. He had suffered numerous health issues, including Alzheimer's. I'm Trey Westerberg with the Sports Grid News Flash.
Something amazing is happening here. Scientists are using AI to study how whales talk to each other. CDW experts can give researchers the power to process complex data with HP workstations, advanced by AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processors. With easier handling of AI workloads, your organization can bring powerful insights to the surface. Make amazing happen. HP, AMD, and CDW. Learn more at cdw.com/HPAMD.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
You don't have to sink a 30-footer from the end of your driveway to come out of the NBA playoffs smelling like a rose. Sports Grid brings you all the angles, insights, and odds.
And more to make you a winner.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
We're live right here on Moneyline. It is Sirius XM Channel 159. Kevin Walsh here with you on this Tuesday. And a report just kind of came across from Mark Stein, longtime NBA reporter, saying that Chris Paul's likely going to be done in San Antonio after this year. Just find himself another spot. Assuming he is out, I really am fascinated to see where CP3 lands. I think if he's playing on the minimum, it's dealer's choice. He got a huge ovation from OKC when he came back. Chris Paul's always wanted that championship. It's the type of ring chasing that doesn't get viewed in like a negative light type of situation. I don't think people would crush CP3 at all for going back to the Thunder and trying to grab a ring next season. I really don't. The Thunder, who knows? It's tough to know what that offseason is going to look like. Could there be a spot for Chris Paul on that team? Yes. Here's the thing. Chris Paul played all 82 this year. So I don't know if CP3 is really interested in that level of backseat. Not starting, not in front of Kassan Wallace on the depth chart. They like Nikola Topic, who they drafted in the lottery last year. So maybe that's just not going to work out for him minutes-wise. Lakers come to mind. There's always been those connections, the LeBron connections. If LeBron is back with the Lakers, it's the heavy favorite, of course. Where else could here's the thing, you ask yourself, like, where else could CP3 go? But CP3 just went to the Spurs. And even if I thought San Antonio would have a much better season than they ultimately did, and you can't blame that all on the Wemby stuff. They were not really tracking towards anything near a playoff team pre-Wemby injury. Maybe that's not the most important thing to Chris Paul. Like, maybe he just wants not starter minutes, but 25 minutes a night. You go to South Beach, could he grab that? Probably. What does this Boston offseason look like? If Drew is gone, if they've made some other moves, could the Celtics get him a slot in their starting lineup and Peyton Pritchard continues to come off of the bench? Yeah, probably. I'll be interested to see where Chris Paul goes. Here's the second part, though, of that report that is not surprising, but is to me probably more noteworthy than the Chris Paul landing spot. It's that San Antonio, in having De'Aaron Fox, in drafting Stephon Castle at this last year, they have a clear desire to draft Dylan Harper at the second overall selection. And those odds are out, by the way, minus 2,400 that Dylan Harper goes second overall. The fade of that to me would be to bet Harper at 50-1 to go third, because you're getting better odds on that than really anything else. Ace to go second or Edgecombe to go second are half of that price. If Harper doesn't go 2, you totally could suggest, maybe something's gone wrong and he's going to flop down the board. Maybe. But my thing is, if you say Harper doesn't go 2, I'm not sure if it's Ace or Edgecombe. Now, it's likely Harper goes 2. It's partly why I think San Antonio parts ways, in an ideal world with the selection. I think they've done a really nice job telling everyone that they want Harper. But this is just going to bring up, and I told you so from me, that I knew I was right about the second it happened. I know I was the only person saying it, and it's the Spurs trading for De'Aaron Fox was an awful decision, and one they got forced into that they should never have allowed themselves to be forced into. It was a ridiculous move. De'Aaron Fox, at the deadline, decides that he wants to go to the Spurs. Long-term, works for him, play with Wemby. They've got an open slot, in Texas. He's right. And if you're the Spurs, you should have said, awesome, De'Aaron, we'll talk in the offseason. The purpose of trading for Fox, to me, was really nonsensical. And you might say, but, you didn't know Wemby was going to go down. This team was comfortably below 500 at the time of the move. At that point, Stephon Castle was emerging, so you shouldn't have been looking to chew up his minutes. Now, Fox, was injured, and they still kind of made it work, and it was also, just such a bad rookie class. Castle had built up such a lead. But I wasn't really sure on a Castle-Fox pairing because I'm not sure on the three-point shooting of the group. If you look at it, De'Aaron Fox over the course of his career is not an efficient three-point shooter, so it's not providing you the level of space that you'd love to have. And Stephon Castle's got a ways to go to becoming any type of threat from beyond the arc. Now, he maybe can get there, and again, we're talking about hitting like a 35% bar for him where you'd be ecstatic with. Because if you look at De'Aaron Fox, he had the one season where he got it to 37 in, that great season for Sacramento, but basically every other year, save the sophomore season on really low volume, he's under 35%. He's under 34%. Well, now San Antonio is sat there. All right, so we have ball dominant is strong, but control the rock type of guy in De'Aaron Fox as the one. Stephon Castle, again, who you just drafted, freshman out of UConn, should be demanding more touches. All right, you're playing him at the 2. We're not crushing it for spacing now. But now you're going to draft Dylan Harper with the 2nd overall pick, which realistically is more equity than what you gave up to get Fox and that you put into Stephon Castle. Harper's not a 3, Castle's not a 3. Maybe you're going to try and say, oh, we can go, 6'6" and under like the Pacers do with Nembhard, Halliburton, and Naismith. Yeah, the difference is everyone there is, flying the basketball around, defending. Is that what you're getting out of the Spurs group? That team needs a time machine to send De'Aaron Fox back to Sacramento.
Sports Grid. Stamping out the boredom in baseball year after year. We bring you all the angles, insights, and information you need. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The Sports Grid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1968, George Halas retires from coaching, finishing with 318 regular season wins and 6 NFL titles. Not many people know it, but Papa Bear played baseball for the Yankees in 1919. The following season, Babe Ruth came to the Yankees, and as they say, the rest is history for both men. For Sports Grid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Flying construction robots, coming soon to a building site near you. Swiss researchers have found that precision flying construction robot drones, similar technology to that used to create those beautiful synchronized aerial displays, can be used to precisely position large objects, assisting construction workers at great heights. Synchronized drone swarms autonomously constructing entire buildings in remote locations, hazardous conditions, even cutting down on construction accidents. Ouch. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
Already have it played out in this series. I loved OKC in game number 1. I love the Minnesota Timberwolves in game number 2. And it's not the X's and O's. Do I expect the Timberwolves to win this game outright? Not necessarily. But you know where I'm going, Ben? I am taking the points. I love the 7.5 tonight with the Minnesota Timberwolves to get back into the series. Or should I say, at least be competitive and be back into the series.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Sports Grid Radio Network. In baseball, a batter gets 3 strikes. In sports gaming, you get 1. No do-overs. You need all the help you can get. And that's what you get with us, your trusted source for gaming odds and more. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Okay, back with you right here on Moneyline. I'm still bothered by the move for the Spurs to get Fox. And it's not that I don't hate De'Aaron Fox. It's just, it was a bad move. That's all. It's just a bad move. And that, it's going to make the offseason a little weird for them. They should see if Milwaukee wants Fox. Well, I guess Fox would veto the whole thing. We'll see what happens. I mention the Pacers because Halliburton is 6'5", Nembhard is 6'4", and Naismith is 6'6". So, your 1, 2, 3 are 6'6" and lower. But the difference is Halliburton is more pass first than obviously anybody on that group. Naismith's averaging 12 a night. Nembhard's averaging 10 a night. Nembhard's there to play in the flow. Naismith is there to defend. Who is playing what role for that in San Antonio? And you're going to throw Castle as a sixth man off of a rookie season? It's wrong. And here's the thing. Even if you did that, like Harper and Fox, I don't know if that works. It's weird. Because you think, both guys want to be high-volume scorers, and then you remember, oh, by the way, neither of you matter. We have Victor Wembanyama. So we'll see what happens. But speaking of the Pacers, look, huge game tonight at home. I expect the Pacers to win. Okay, Dubs. Yeah, it's we all have them. It feels like just no luck my way right now on the slate. Again, we all have them. It's probably never as bad as we think in the moment, but it's bad for me, it feels like right now. Laid the 3 with OKC last night. Foul up 3 strategy. It ends up being a 2-point win. Couldn't even, I thought maybe we get a loose ball foul there between Dante and SGA. We didn't. So that was brutal. Listen, it's hard to complain about 6-leg parlays, but I had fun with something last night that I wouldn't be that angry about if OKC covered. But it was a lot of the role-ish players, and we were looking for guys to score 5 points, 6 points, 3 points. Kassan Wallace. The highest was Naz Reid to get to 9. The bet lost on Dort not getting to 6. And it was about a plus 850 ticket. It was, it was a nice little shot there. I had a moment, I'm watching that game. I'm going, all right, we're going to hit OKC. I had a Chet points rebounds. I'm sitting there on this nice, little role player points parlay prop. Like, this is going to be a nice night here. This is going to be a real strong close to the weekend. Bing, bing, boom, boom. Nope. Just be thankful you got your Chet bet in. Money burner ultimately on the night. That was unfortunate. That was frustrating. Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because I like Indiana tonight. But at this moment right now, if I lay those 2.5 points, if I lay those 2 points, I'm mentally in a headspace where it feels like game lands won. Now you try not to get, in your head too much with stuff like that. You try not to. But I have been thinking a little bit over the weekend just around like playing Moneyline favorites and not. You have to factor in the juice, but not being as scared by the juice. Because at the end of the day, those numbers are there for a reason, right? Just because a lot of times, maybe minus 300, that's not bettable. Well, what if the minus 300 should be minus 900? I mean, it sounds bettable to me, right? It's something that, you always evolve as a bettor. Especially, look, just when you're my age. When you're doing it, you evolve, you learn. You have to. There's just been some stuff I've been thinking about. I'll explain a little bit more. We'll talk some Western Conference, Eastern Conference finals as well after the break. With you right here, it's Moneyline on Sports Grid Radio.
Playoffs. It all comes down to this.
And we
We'll give you all the angles to make sure you win a little something something. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. NBA West Final. The Oklahoma City Thunder took a commanding 3-1 series lead with a 128-126 victory at Minnesota on Monday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the NBA MVP, put up 40 points for Oak City. He had 10 assists and 9 rebounds, just missing the triple-double. The Thunder able to snap back from a 42-point loss in Game 3. Jalen Williams added 34 points. Chet Holmgren had 21. Nick Alexander-Walker led Minnesota with 23 off the bench, while Jaden McDaniels had 22. The Thunder will look to close out the series in Oklahoma City this Wednesday night. Tonight, Knicks and Pacers in Indianapolis. Indiana up 2-1. The Knicks rallied back from a 20-point deficit to beat the Pacers in Game 3 Sunday, 106-100. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Progressive knows you've got enough to worry about in life.
Hi, it's your life again. Feel like another year is just slipping away? Yeah, remember all those New Year's resolutions you made? You still haven't finished the first book. Just 19 more to go. I mean, if we're being honest, it wasn't a very realistic goal. Have you ever considered that you intentionally self-sabotage? So, what's that about?
So, let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Let's keep it real. Baseball can be boring. That's where Sports Grid comes in. Nothing livens up those 9 innings like sports gaming. You might experience something you've never felt in a baseball game, a quickened pulse. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
All right, lively right here. We're on Sports Grid Moneyline. I'll just, we'll talk a little Moneyline for the people. I wonder if this will resonate for anyone. So let's go back. All right. Over the weekend, the Yankees were in Coors Field. They were in Colorado. They were at Coors Field. So the Yanks dropped the first game of the series. Only scored 2 runs. An Aaron Judge homer in the 5th that made it 2-1. They didn't score again. The Rockies actually took the lead back 3-2 in the bottom of that game. It was the Rockies' 9th win of the season. The Yankees lost that game as a minus 265 money line favorite. The next game, the Yankees were throwing Max Fried. Obviously, once again now playing the Rockies. The Rockies have won consecutive games once all season. So, okay, up against it. The Yankees are throwing in this game Max Fried. In the 11 starts from Max Fried this season, the Yankees lost 1 of them. It was a 2-1 defeat at Seattle that they actually lost in 11 innings. If you actually look, the Yankees have been unbelievably dominant with Max Fried on the mound. Of the 10 games that they've won with him starting, only 2 have not covered a run line of 1.5. However, the run line for this game was 3.5. But I wasn't interested in the run line, as Kyle Freeland was out there, and the Yankees have been fantastic against lefties, and Freeland looked poised to get a little bit lit up coming off of a game where he had only given up 1 earned run. If you look through the season, when giving up 1 or fewer runs, the next start, Freeland had allowed 3 earned, 6 earned, and was coming off of one of those spots now playing the Yankees. It felt like the perfect spot. The Yankees' money line, though, was bouncing around between minus 310 to around minus 330, minus 335 at close. And it was one of those numbers that I was looking at saying, forget this run line stuff, forget these team totals, forget Judge total bases. The Yankees are winning this game. That I know. The inner workings of the game, I have an idea. I imagine the Yankees will win big. 3.5 is also a crazy run line. It's the equivalent of a team laying 20, it feels like, in the NFL. But again, if you see a team laying 20, right, in the NFL, what's that money line? Way different. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at that minus 330. Now, ultimately, I didn't touch it. Not at all. Didn't make $1 off the game. The most confident I've been about anything in baseball this season is that the Yankees were winning that baseball game. First inning, Aaron Judge, home run. Okay? All right. Now, you actually saw Colorado tie it up, have a chance to even take the lead. They didn't. It was 1-1 at the end of the fourth inning. And then the Yankees had a 10-run fifth inning. Obviously never looked back. They won the game 13-1. Now, I imagine you are all aware, but just in case you are not, I am not bringing this up as in I told you so. Not crushed it, knew the Yanks would beat the Rockies at minus 300. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about the fact that I knew the Yanks would beat the Rockies at minus 300, but I allowed that minus 320 number to stop me from making $1. And there's a part of me right now that's wondering, has juice become too scary? Look, you have to, of course, be aware that if I'm right about this game, so let's just say this exact game, I'm right about it the first time. Let's say you laid the 320 to win $100. I'm right about it the first time. Awesome. I'm right about it the second time. Awesome. I'm right about it a third time. Awesome. Now I'm looking to go 4-0. And I drop that fourth game. I'm now under. I'm sitting 3-1, 75% on a net loss. You have to be selective. You don't want to, and again, that's talking minus 320. So that's not, you can obviously, hey, this minus 750 is coming in. I'm telling you right now. If it's coming in, it's coming in. You have to be reasonable. I wanted to use this example quickly. The Liberty are at home. They're playing the Golden State Valkyries. Golden State, of course, the expansion team. The Liberty, every indication is they'll win that game. At home, come on. But minus 2,200, I'm not going to sit here and argue there's value in that. Right? What would I have to do? I have to sit there and really do work to be able. See, I could give you a lot of reasons why the Yankees beating Colorado felt like a real certain thing in that moment. Colorado doesn't have anything near a home field advantage, it feels like. They've been better at home than the road. But with the Yankees bats coming in, are you, if you've kind of flipped that game to Yankee Stadium, are you telling me it's minus 550? Minus 500? If it's minus 500 in Yankee Stadium, it should have been minus 500 at Coors Field. That's how I feel. That's a gap. That's a legitimate gap when we're talking about value. I'll throw another one out. I was thinking about it this past golf tournament. Scotty Scheffler was minus 600 to finish top 20. Minus 600. You hear that. Again, I'm sure you laugh. You should. I'm not offended or, but ultimately, what were the pathways for Scotty Scheffler to finish outside the top 20 in this tournament? Withdraws, gets injured. That was it. I mean, Scotty Scheffler finished top 4, by the way. Okay. If you look on the season, he has one finish outside of the top 20. Is minus 600 representative of that? We'll go back to last season. Scotty Scheffler, 2 finishes outside the top 20, 2 of them. But again, at the U.S. Open, I don't think I'd be looking at minus 600 Scotty. Because at the U.S. Open, Scotty was not plus 250 to win the tournament like he was at the Memorial. And he obviously didn't, or the Charles Schwab. And I'm talking this through. So I don't know if the answer is, we kind of use flat numbers. I don't know if the answer is 600 to win 100 or 100 to win. Let me see if I can do this quickly to find out what that would be. Hold on a second. I don't, to win 16. I know it sounds laughable, but there's aspects of it you still try and figure out because it's so uncommon. Certainly in the public betting space. And I'm not, here saying like this is the way forward. I'm not sure it is. Right? Because I have 2 front of mind instances of Scotty's top 20, the Yankees money line, maybe multiplied by OKC -3 losing, but OKC -145 winning, where I wonder, is there a lot more value in a chalk number than everyone realizes? Something to think about here on a Tuesday on Sports Grid Radio, Sirius XM, channel 150.
By the end, you might not have a ring on your finger. Stay tuned and you'll have a little something in your pocket. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Stanley Cup playoffs on Monday. The Carolina Hurricanes stayed alive with a 3-0 shutout win over the Florida Panthers. The defending Stanley Cup champs now lead the series 3-1. Logan Stankoven scored the only goal Carolina needed. Sebastian Aho and Jordan Stahl added empty netters, helping the Hurricanes win their first Eastern Conference Finals game in nearly 20 years. Frederik Andersen made 20 saves for career shutout number 5 in the playoffs. On the other side, Sergei Bobrovsky made 25 stops for Florida. Game 5 is Wednesday night in Raleigh. If Game 6 is necessary, they'd head back to Sunrise, Florida on Friday. Tonight, it's Game 4 between the Oilers and the Stars in the Western Conference Final. Edmonton looking to go up 3-1 on their home ice. Edmonton took a 2-1 series lead with a 6-1 blowout victory in Game 3 on Sunday. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Summer is calling, and guess what? Macy's has the answers for every adventure, with new swim trends and sandals to take you from the beach to the beach bar. Plus, linen suits from Tommy Hilfiger and Michael Kors, and dresses from CC to take you from brunch to the dinner party. Even better, get it all for 25 to 60% off at our Memorial Day sale. So wherever this season takes you, make Macy's your first destination. But hurry, this sale is going on now. Savings off sale and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Something amazing is happening here. Scientists are using AI to study how whales talk to each other. CDW experts can give researchers the power to process complex data with HP workstations, advanced by AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processors. With easier handling of AI workloads, your organization can bring powerful insights to the surface. Make amazing happen. HP, AMD, and CDW. Learn more at cdw.com/HPAMD.
Springtime. When a young man's fancy turns to get your mind out of the gutter. For sports gaming strategies and information that gives you an unfair advantage, you'll find it all right here. It's the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Live to right here. It's a Tuesday on Sports Grid. I will let everybody know that the Kevin Walsh Show does anticipate getting you another episode out tomorrow. Plan is to record with Joe Frizo tonight following Knicks Pacers. Depending on how the game goes, could be a tough record. I expect Indiana to win. I expect Indiana to win this series now because my confidence was really bumped up after Game 3. I don't know if you can, JP. I'd love to get you in here and get your take on Pacers Knicks. I actually don't even want to say anything. JP, for anybody that doesn't know, of course, our producer behind the scenes, knows basketball very, very, very well. I don't think anyone will mind me saying, certainly in the top 2 of people involved with Moneyline when it comes to basketball knowledge. Talk to me here, JP. What was your takeaway from game number 3, the Knicks actually getting a win in this series?
Yeah, I think a lot of the takes immediately after, people have the minds of goldfish, especially in the playoffs. I saw a lot of, relative uninformed takes on Jalen Brunson and what actually happened in that fourth quarter. And the real takeaway for me is just how apparent it is. Those Cat Brunson minutes need to be staggered tonight, and they need to be staggered for as long as they're in the playoffs and on the same team, because they are both dominant scorers and awful defenders on the floor together. You do not need them both to score, and you do not need them both to defend. Stagger the minutes.
So, listen, I think you definitely will need to stagger it as much as possible. They're going to start and they're going to close. But, Cat being the first sub, whatever you want to do, I think you absolutely can do that. My thing is, when it comes to blaming, when we're trying to figure out who's at fault for things not working when they're out there together, I agree with what I think is now becoming the consensus. It's more on Brunson / Tibbs, figure it out. But Brunson gets into these games. He got into that game in the fourth quarter, and at no moment did he care that Cat had been lighting the world on fire, and he went right back to Brunson ball. And him picking up that 5th foul, I legitimately think was helpful to the Knicks closing out the game. I know he was a part of closing it, but he came in and immediately disrupted their flow in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but especially in the playoffs, you kind of have to take each game as its own complete thing, because there's been games where, if Jalen Brunson wasn't on the floor, the Knicks lost by 50, and there's going to be games where it goes the other way. So you take that as its own thing. The Miles McBride foul trouble, I think, also helped, because you see a lot in DeLon Wright and how impactful he could be, even when he's not scoring, shooting, really doing anything other than defending players and switching well. So you take it each as their own. You see who picks up a few fouls early, rotate in Deuce, DeLon, and Shamet, and I think you have a pretty good recipe for success.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that Tibbs all of a sudden, at one moment, guys he legitimately was not letting touch the court, was running out of DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet backcourt. It's very interesting. Listen, I'm tough on Tibbs. I know that. People are like, man, all the credit in the world to Tibbs. It's like, why? Because he just, in the third game of the conference finals, opted to play guys that other people wanted to see minutes from the whole way. I don't know. That doesn't work for me. And here's, for me, truly, JP, I don't know if you disagree, but I look at that game and I feel very confident now that the Pacers will actually win this series, because I think the Knicks have this thing where you're looking at their superstars and they're an unsettling 1-2 combination. And I don't trust everybody involved then to be able to figure that out on the fly.
Yeah, I'm not super confident either way, despite being a Knicks fan. I really do think this series was destined to go 7 regardless of what happened. So I still see it going that way. And then you get to game 7, and like last year, let's see who's healthy, let's see who's out there, and tip the ball and see what happens.
Yeah, I think it'll be fascinating. I initially thought that the series would be Knicks in 7. I've, my pre-season investments in the Indiana Pacers, so that's kind of where the rooting has been. I've been really torn on a lot of games in this series. I did say going into game 2, that must win for the Knicks was real ominous. It just felt like they really let one get away in that opener. And that was the case. Obviously, they get the game back despite being down 20, which was incredible. And, you give these two teams credit for their ability to come back. And whichever one makes it out, it's going to obviously need it when OKC is inevitably up 25 multiple times on these guys at some point again in the NBA Finals. My thing, though, for the Knicks now is if Indiana does win tonight, which I think they will, there's been a couple of times, you think, all right, well, if this team can steal this game, and they just don't steal the game. Like, I thought that the Bucks were going to win game 5. The Bucks had it. Improbable Pacers victory. I thought that the Cavs, of course, would win the 5th game on their home floor. Indiana takes it. The crazy thing is the most dominant team record-wise has still been the Indiana Pacers in these playoffs, not the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, you got the two most resilient teams in the NBA, and they're both geckos. You rip their tails off, they just grow them back. So you never know what's going to happen when these two get on the court, and that's what Jalen Brunson said after the game. Unpredictable is how this series has been.
Yeah, and he's certainly not wrong. And this game tonight is going to get a lot of coverage. You do have, though, a huge WNBA slate. If you're interested, it's a 5-game slate. I will say one of the big story now around the WNBA is the Caitlin Clark injury. If you missed that over the weekend, a quad strain is going to keep her out 2 weeks, which is a really tough blow for the Fever because they're off to this 2-2 starts of the season. They've looked good. Their 2 losses are by a combined 3 points. They're only 2-2, and Clark at the time before the injury, I think was a slight MVP favorite over Nafisha Collier, but obviously is viewed as one of the best players in this league. You now have to go at it without her. Now here's the boost: Washington, Connecticut, Washington, Chicago. Those are the next 4 games. With Golden State involved, those are viewed as the 4 worst teams in the league. So your next 4 games are against bottom 4 teams. That's a huge lift. And realistically, if you're the Fever, not that you should go 4-0 because you don't have Caitlin Clark, but you at minimum should be 2-2. Then follow-up game, the next game after that would be on the 10th of June. That's 2 weeks away. Maybe she's back. If not, you don't play then again until the 14th. You missed that game against the Liberty. You're now 3 weeks. It's Connecticut, Golden State. They're in a fine enough spot. The Fever. Little Western Conference quickly. Next, Moneyline.
We don't care what your high school girlfriend told you. You are a winner.
Or at least you will be if you keep it here.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The new Sports Grid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the Sports Grid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime. On the go, wherever you are. Download the Sports Grid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
For anyone who's worried about back taxes, has not filed tax returns, and doesn't know what to do next, stop and listen. Not filing your taxes can have severe consequences, especially in this political climate. Now that COVID is over, the IRS is getting aggressive, massively increasing enforcement and collection efforts. With politicians making all sorts of promises, especially when it comes to taxes, hiding and not dealing with your taxes will cause you harsh legal and financial ramifications. But right now, the IRS offers forgiveness and writes off a massive amount of tax debt. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Don't hide or bury your head in the sand. Take advantage of our free service. Call now to learn more. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. That's 800-816-4492.
Football full circle.
If you ban it, we'll find another way to dominate. If you ban it, you are risking the safety of our quarterbacks. Even made a comparison, Joe, almost like a Lisi quote, that it's the wet dream of every teenage boy. Don't get mad at me. Jeffrey Lurie's word. To invent a play so successful in the NFL, the league tries to ban it.
It's Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and Joe Lisi. Weekdays, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on the Sports Grid Radio Network. If you want to be an alpha,
you've got to get the winning edge.
It's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory
with the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
All right, back with you on Sports Grid. I want to throw something out here to the people. Western Conference Finals, Thunder 128, Timberwolves 126. SGA 40 points, first 40-point playoff game for him in his career. 9 boards, 10 assists. Just missed out on that triple-double. SGA, by the way, as far as triple-doubles go, he's not had one all season, didn't have one all of last season, didn't have one the year before that. It would have been pretty incredible if his first, it would have been second ever triple-double with the Thunder, I think third of his career. But if he would have pulled that off in the playoffs while scoring 40, I know the 13 and 30 isn't great, but he made up for it in a lot of ways. The incredible thing is the 40 points, it somehow, when I, was looking at the final numbers, I was like, oh, Jalen Williams at 34? How'd that happen? Then you remember, it's like, yeah, he hit a ton of threes, and he made 6 threes in the game, paired it with 3 steals, 5 dimes. When we're evaluating the best players in this series, Anthony Edwards is currently being outplayed by Jalen Williams. And I don't really know how you win the argument if you're on the Ant side. I mean, again, if you just look at the totality, J-Dub is at 23, 6 and 4 with 2.5 steals a game on 49, 50, 85 shooting. Ant is at 24 points a game, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, half a steal, half a block on 49, 31, 69 shooting. So, I mean, the landscape of the numbers, efficiency plus defense, to me, that says J-Dub. You want to score it like a boxing match? Good with me. We can do that. Game number 1, 19, 8, and 5 for J-Dub. 40% from the floor, full roundup, 5 steals. Ant, 18, 9, and 3, 1 block. Again, 40% from the field. Turned the ball over 4 times. J-Dub didn't turn it over. Pretty clean J-Dub to me. Game 2, 26, 10, and 5 for J-Dub, 60% from the floor. Ant, 32, 9, and 6. But, 12 of 26 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3. It's close. I'm okay giving Ant the nod there if you want. You can. It's up to you. Here's the thing. You're going to need it. Game number 3, obviously, Ant. I don't have to go through the numbers. And then game number 4, again, obviously, Jalen Williams. Here's my thing. So the last 2 have been really obvious. I think it's much easier to sell Jalen won the first 2 games, especially when you look at who won the games, than Ant won the first 2 games. Now, you would say to me, look, Ant's got a lot more of responsibility and attention being put on him. If you asked OKC in Minnesota, Truth Serum, hey, we're going to make the swap here. Would Minnesota be in a better spot with J-Dub instead of Ant? No. I'm not saying that. Would OKC, if they had Ant instead of J-Dub, be in a better... Yeah. Ant's better than Jalen Williams. He's not playing like it. And if anything, you shouldn't be able to make the argument. Because then you're drawing dead. There's no argument who the best player in this series has been. There's a very real argument as to who's been the second best player in this series. And I think the argument goes to Jalen Williams. That's me. So, for Anthony Edwards, it could very well be the second year in a row he gets to the conference finals and is outplayed by this number 2 guy. Luka was a different stratosphere than Ant last year in the conference finals. The battle was Ant versus Kyrie. It was close. It was really, really close. Those are not the battles that Ant is supposed to be in. I said this after game 1 or 2, whatever it was, but man, there is a really big gap between Ant and SGA right now. And that's a part of Minnesota figuring this all out. That'll do it for Moneyline. Donnie will be back with you tomorrow. Football Full Circle next right here on Sports Grid Radio.
Get more of what makes life worth living.
actionable insights, analysis, odds, and expert perspective on sports gaming.
Missing the triple-double, the Thunder able to snap back from a 42-point loss in Game 3. Jalen Williams added 34 points. Chet Holmgren had 21. Nick Alexander-Walker led Minnesota with 23 off the bench, while Jaden McDaniels had 22. The Thunder look to close out the series in Oklahoma City this Wednesday night. Tonight, Knicks and Pacers in Indianapolis. Indiana up 2-1. The Knicks rallied back from a 20-point deficit to beat the Pacers in Game 3 Sunday, 106-100. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Progressive knows you've got enough to worry about in life.
Hi, it's your life again. Feel like another year is just slipping away? Yeah, remember all those New Year's resolutions you made? You still haven't finished the first book. Just 19 more to go. I mean, if we're being honest, it wasn't a very realistic goal. Have you ever considered that you intentionally self-sabotage? So, what's that about?
So, let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
If you want to be an alpha,
you've got to get the winning edge.
it's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory
With the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle, right here on the Sports Grid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159, Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel taking you around the NFL for the next hour. Some news and notes over the weekend. A.J. Gibson, Cole, for the Las Vegas Raiders signed to a $15.8 million 4-year extension. The All-Pro kicker does get his money. We'll see if it could help the Raiders moving forward in the AFC West this season to challenge the Kansas City Chiefs. Aiden Hutchinson has been cleared for practice. That's good news for the Detroit Lions as they look to challenge for an NFC championship. And then news and notes and debate this week, Scott. I don't know if you saw this, but we know Micah Parsons is up for potentially a contract extension and signing, and there's been rumors that he'll blow Myles Garrett's contract out of the water. I want to get your take about Micah Parsons as a player and, more importantly, about the contract extension. Do you think his numbers will exceed Myles Garrett this coming offseason?
All right, let me start with Coles real quickly for a second. I know it's just a punter. Who cares, right? But this is what's wrong with the NFL, Joe. I don't know who negotiates these contracts for these teams, but I tell you, they're a bunch of idiots, right? I mean, so you got a punter. He was second last year in punting average. Second. So what do? The Raiders? They give him the highest paid contract. I mean, all you have to do is just tell the guy, you were the second best punter last year, so I'm going to give you the second most money. How do you refute that? Well, I should be paid the most. Why? Well, because I was second best. So then why should you get paid more than the next guy? I don't know who the highest paid punter is. It doesn't matter. Well, I just got a kick at it. Like, he was the second best punter last year, and you're giving him the most money. So the guy who's the third best punter is going to get the most money when he's a free agent. And by the time it rolls around to whoever the best punter is, that's why prices go through the roof. Give him the second most money. You're the second best punter. Case closed. See you later.
Well, let me ask you this, because, and this is a good conversation. When we look about, punters and special teams, we know what they did with the kickoff. They kept that part in the game, and I'm happy that they did that. But special teams, for the most part, haven't been as dominant or as important parts of the game as we've seen maybe in the past, 20 or 30 seasons. Back in the early 90s, it was punt and pin, rely on dominant defenses. Teams like the New York Giants and other dominant teams like the Cowboys, when they won 3 straight, they did it on a defensive side of the football, right? They had offensive playmakers, but defense was prevalent for some of the most dominant teams in the AFC and the NFC. We haven't seen that in recent years. We saw it a little bit in terms of transition over the past couple of seasons where teams want to run the football, right, and rely on a dominant front seven like the Philadelphia Eagles, but it hasn't been as consistent from top to bottom in terms of the elite teams in both conferences. And when you have a team and a coach in Pete Carroll that has, I'm going to see, tempered expectations, do you feel like that's the way the team is going to maybe be built for the next 2 or 3 seasons, to maybe rely on ball control and lower scoring games to win?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look who's in your division, right? You're going to get in a shootout with Kansas City? No. Do you want to get in a shootout with the Chargers? No. And how did Denver do it last year? They didn't do it by putting 30 points on the board. They won it basically with defense. So maybe that's the way they go. Pin it back, the old coffin corner, old 80s and 90s reference there to putting them inside the 5-10 yard line. I just think it's funny that you give the guy who's the second best punter the most money. It just, doesn't make any sense to me. How's he going to argue that if you give him the second most money? You think you're going to save money? I mean, just like
First of all,
best.
let me just say
this. Tell you.
I don't believe in giving any record amount of money, and people will bash me for this, for punters, place kickers, or any type of kicker or special teams type of player. I just don't believe it in terms of the way the game is built today, and I always believe punters and place kickers will burn you and cost you more times than they win you games. And I understand, some of the best kickers over the last 10 years, Justin Tucker, on the field, forget the off the field situation, has been one of the best around, and you can make the argument worth the money. But in the end, to me, Scott, I would rather pay a wide receiver, rather pay a quarterback to potentially win games than rely on a punter or a place kicker in terms of wins or losses in the NFL in 2025.
Yeah, I disagree with the place kicker. I think the difference between the top, we'll just say 5, right? 4 or 5 place kickers versus the mediocre guys, I think is huge. But the difference between the top 3, 4, 5 punters and the mediocre punters is a couple of yards. I don't think it's that big a deal. So I agree wholeheartedly about punting, but it's nice to know I'm going to send a kicker out there and he's going to make this thing 90% of the time. I would pay for that. I wouldn't pay top dollar compared to other positions. But if you gave me a really good kicker and he wants to be paid, top 5, I would say, okay, I'll do that. Punter, I'll just say, don't worry about it. There's the next guy right down the street can hit it, a yard or 2 less, maybe. Who cares? What's the difference?
We'll see what happens with the Las Vegas Raiders this year and their new quarterback, Geno Smith. Pete Carroll looking for optimism, looking to make a wild card appearance this coming season. I brought up Micah Parsons, and I'll say this about Micah Parsons. I understand statistically maybe he rivals Myles Garrett in that aspect, but in terms of big games, in terms of taking over games that matter, I don't think Micah Parsons is like LT in that aspect, Scott. I've said it time and time again. You can argue he's more of a compiler than he is a dominant defensive player when the chips are in the middle of the table. Do you feel the same about Micah Parsons, and do you feel like he's worth the money?
Yeah, the Dolphins had a guy like that. I forget his name. Always led the team in tackles. Great player, but was never considered great. He played in the Marino years. When I look at the roster,
not AJ Dewey.
No, it was a linebacker. I forget his name. Like I said, when I see it on the roster, no, definitely not Brian Cox. So, in that era, though, maybe a year or 2 later, maybe a year or 2 beforehand. Anyway, he was a compiler. But great, though. 10, 12 tackles every single game. But was never really considered like all pro or great or Hall of Fame. I don't know if Parsons is in that reign, but there's a reason why this Dallas team never gets any big wins. And is the whole reason why? No. But would I be paying him a gazillion dollars setting the market? I mean, like Dallas did with their quarterback and like they did with CeeDee Lamb. And I mean, you got to turn that faucet. There's got to be a reason why they're not winning. So, I would shy away from giving him that kind of money. That's a lot of money they're going to end up having to give him.
Do you feel like even if he does get signed, is he that much of an important aspect of Dallas's defense that'll get them over the 7.5 wins? Like, let's be honest. I mean, Dallas last year didn't have a dominant defense in any capacity. And when you look at their win total this year, 7.5, and their ability to potentially make a wild card and challenge for an NFC East title, it doesn't just hinder and rely on Micah Parsons. It relies on the other 10 players in that defense, the defense that couldn't shut down Lamar Jackson and got abused by Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. And you look at all the games that they got kicked in the chops. Even Washington beat them in their house with Marcus Mariota when they were still technically alive for a wild card appearance. So at the end of the day, you know, if Dallas is going to take the next step, it's not just Micah Parsons, it's the secondary. It's the other linebackers that matter. And I just don't think they have the talent to even get to 8 or 9 wins this year.
Yeah. What, do you let them walk then? Is that what you're saying? I mean, if that's your alternative.
No, but I still think, I mean, if you're going to pay him, you got to put other players around him so he could actually excel. He can't be the one guy that you pay and the other 10 guys are just, you know, has-beens, and you're going to lose every game 30-28.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can use the same thing on offense. You give Dak Prescott all that money. All right, you re-sign CeeDee Lamb, but do you have a running game to speak of? No, your offensive line stinks. I mean, so that's the Dallas Cowboys way. It's so pay the superstar player and then expect everyone else to be better when they're not.
Yeah, we'll see what transpires in Big D this coming season. 7.5 win total, 50-1 shot to potentially win an NFC championship and a Super Bowl title this coming season. When Scott and I return, we'll break down some odds in the AFC and NFC wild cards as well, coming up next on Football Full Circle.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on Sports Grid, and we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin.
He just gives that vibe.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the Sports Grid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Wendy's. 10 people were shot at a holiday party in Little River, South Carolina on Sunday. Police in Horry County say a fight started on a private boat hosting a party, which led to a shooting on the dock. At least one person not hit by gunfire was hospitalized. Some of the 10 shot were in critical condition. Investigations are ongoing. Gas prices remained steady during the Memorial Day weekend as millions of Americans hit the roads. As of Sunday, the average cost of a gallon of regular gas in the U.S. was $3.18 a gallon, according to AAA. That's the lowest for Memorial Day prices since 2021. Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson has passed away. The Robertson family announced his death on social media Sunday at the age of 79. Robertson and his family were featured in the long-running reality series based in and around West Monroe, Louisiana. He had suffered numerous health issues, including Alzheimer's. I'm Trey Westerberg with the Sports Grid News Flash.
Something amazing is happening here. Scientists are using AI to study how whales talk to each other. CDW experts can give researchers the power to process complex data with HP workstations, advanced by AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processors. With easier handling of AI workloads, your organization can bring powerful insights to the surface. Make amazing happen. HP, AMD, and CDW. Learn more at cdw.com/HPAMD.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
There's something you should know and always remember.
Sports Grid does not increase luck.
We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck,
go find a horseshoe.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. Lisi and Wetzel breaking down the odds as it relates to the playoffs, AFC and NFC teams. We talked about the Dallas Cowboys, and we talked about it earlier in the year, about a couple of weeks ago, Scott, and their odds to miss the playoffs this year. I'm trying to find it right now. They are minus 200 to miss the playoffs this year. A 7.5 win total. Schottenheimer, year number 1, right? We know Dak comes back. Now George Pickens. I mean, basically, they are right there with the likes of Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Chicago, our Dolphins, and the Colts in the same area of about minus 200, minus 225. I don't think I would make that bet. I don't think it's worth it. I'd rather go under the 7.5 win total and just take another shot at maybe other teams to make the playoffs. But minus 200 for the Cowboys to miss the playoffs, I don't think is good value.
No, I would, but I don't think they make the playoffs. But grabbing them at plus 160 to make it might not be too bad of a little chance. But I think they hit their 8-win total, though, Joe. I do think that. I don't think they're going to be that bad. They play the Giants twice, although the Giants, might be a little bit better depending on when they play them. But are they going to go really 7-10? I don't think they're going to be that bad. Pickens is a mope. I get that, but Dak is healthy, and they've never had issues with Dak in the regular season. It was always the postseason stuff. So are they going to be so bad that they're going to be 7-10? I'm buying into Schottenheimer. We'll see. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think they get to 8 wins. 8-9 is not asking a lot. I like their team total.
I will say this. They have the alt totals up now, Scott, on a lot of these teams. They didn't have that when we first did it a couple of weeks ago. Under 5.5 wins for the Cowboys at plus 380 for them to implode. So it's 2 wins less than what the books have established this year. For me, I would take a shot, almost 4-1, for them to implode completely. You got Pickens, you got CD Lamb. That's all well and good, but you still have to play the Eagles twice. You haven't closed the gap in any capacity from a defensive perspective to make any type of headway against the Philadelphia offense. You still have to play Washington. Now, granted, they beat them as a 10.5-point dog last year in Washington with Cooper Rush. I understand that. With Dak, I still think they're like 2-4 in the division at best. At best. I think the Giants could pick them off once with Russell Wilson. I don't think there's any doubt that this team, once they lose 1 or 2 games early on, they can implode and maybe only win 4 or 5 games this year, and you're getting 4-1 under 5.5 wins.
All right. I could see that, but I'd be more inclined to go over 9.5 at plus 190. Now, they're not giving you nearly as much. You're paying the price here, 2-1. But you look at their schedule to start. The key is going to be the first month and a half for them. Their whole season rides in the first month and a half. Let's say they lose to Philadelphia to start the season, right? Then they got the Giants at home, winnable. Bears, albeit on the road, but that's winnable. Green Bay at home, winnable. Yeah. And then Jets and Carolina back-to-back, albeit on the road. That's 6 games. Let's just say 5 of them are winnable. They're not beating Philadelphia. All the others, because Green Bay's at home. You got to come out of that. If you can come out of that somehow or another 4-2, then you're on your way to 10 wins. 3-3, you're in the ball game. If you come out of that 2-4, forget about it, because then they play at Denver and Philadelphia again, and Kansas City, and at Detroit, at Washington, and they're not winning those games. So you got to be able to make do first month and a half of the season.
Yeah, and then you look at the back end. Obviously, Thanksgiving, you got Pat Mahomes, you got the Vikings after a bye, right? Chargers with Justin Herbert. Prior to that, you have a game against the Eagles and the Cardinals with Kyler, and you know how I feel about Arizona. The back end from November 3rd through December 21st, Scott, they could lose every one of those games. Cardinals, Eagles, Chiefs, Vikings, Chargers, they could go 0-5 during that span, and I think you're on potentially under the 5.5. If they somehow, some way, let's say go 2-4 in the first 6 games, pressure's on this team. Then what happens? Then the pressure's on Schottenheimer, the pressure's on Dak, pressure's on everybody the way it was last year, and there's no excuses. And we know Jerry right now at the end of his rope for the most part. What's he going to do?
Yeah. I'll tell you this. If they're not good, the NFL's in a little bit of trouble because they're in prime time or the 4 o'clock window where they're the main game. 11 of their 16 games. The last game for everyone is all a flex because they don't know who's going to be doing what. So 11 of the first 16 games, they are in prime time, whether it's Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night, or like I said, the 4 o'clock window where they're the main game. I mean, if they're going to be that bad, I don't know what the NFL, and you can't flex out of these games. You can't flex out of Thanksgiving. You can't flex out of the Thursday, the 4th, the Thursday games. You can't flex out of Christmas Day games. We're going to be seeing a whole lot of bad Dallas Cowboy football if they are that bad, Joe.
I agree. And we asked for this. I think we asked FanDuel to put the all totals up for us because we didn't have this about a couple of weeks ago. We said if we could alter it in terms of certain capacity. One team that, again, I'm high on is Arizona and Kyler Murray, right? And if you look at their totals right now, 8.5 seems to be right where the books think they're booked. 8.5 wins minus 110 either way, under or over. I honestly think they have a great shot to win the AFC West, plus 440 to win the division, NFC West. Over 10.5 wins, plus 260, Scott. They won 8 games last year. You buying that total at plus 260 to be an 11-win football team?
No. Again, it's another one where I would go under. I just assume go on. I don't know if they're going to be 6-11. That's asking a lot. I wish they had 7.5. They don't offer that. They jumped from 8.5 to 6.5 to 10.5. They kind of skip numbers. But I think if I had to choose one, I'd go under 6.5 and plus 250. They stink, Joe. Kyler Murray stinks. He's going to get another head coach fired. They should be good. They got great weapons to throw the ball to and run the ball with Connor. I mean, they really should be a number one offense, but he stinks.
Yeah, you look at the first 4 games, Scott. Saints, Panthers, 49ers, and Seahawks. Winnable games. We'll talk about it on the back end of the break, coming right back on Football Full Circle.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. The Sports Grid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1968, George Halas retires from coaching, finishing with 318 regular season wins and 6 NFL titles. Not many people know it, but Papa Bear played baseball for the Yankees in 1919. The following season, Babe Ruth came to the Yankees, and as they say, the rest is history for both men. For Sports Grid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Scientists at the American Institute of Physics have built a sophisticated computer model using half a dozen differential equations derived from Euler's mathematical simulation of a rotating rigid body on a waxed surface covered with a thin layer of oil to understand, for the first time, the science of bowling. Until now, there's been no unified model to predict the best conditions for a strike, or how to best prepare tournament lanes for fair competition. However, no simulation of bowling ball shot dynamics, trajectory, friction, wood grain, accessories, or oil patterns can solve this. Better ball. Follow me at Gigabelbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
I already have it played out in the series. I loved OKC in game number 1. I love the Minnesota Timberwolves in game number 2. And it's not the X's and O's. Do I expect the Timberwolves to win this game outright? Not necessarily. But you know where I'm going, Ben? I am taking the points. I love the 7.5 tonight with the Minnesota Timberwolves to get back into the series. Or should I say, at least be competitive and be back into the series.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Sports Grid Radio Network. There comes a point when the chips are down.
To coin a phrase.
When the only thing you can do is stop and wait. Do you want to face that moment prepared?
Or rely on luck?
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing the conversation, Scott and I were looking at the alt win totals for the Arizona Cardinals. Scott likes under the 6.5 for the Cardinals and Gannon, their head coach. I like over 10.5. Not going to be easy when you look at the last 6 games in regards to the regular season for the Arizona Cardinals. I mentioned it. You got the last 6 games. Buccaneers, Rams, Texans, Falcons, Bengals, Rams. You come out of that 4-2, Scott. Most likely you get to 10.5, 11 wins. Not going to be easy. We think the Bengals are obviously a contender. We know about the Texans with C.J. Stroud and that offense, led by their defense as well with Will Anderson. What do you get out of the Rams, I still am willing to make that bet. I know you don't love Kyler, but I'm still willing to alt it up over the 10.5 win total. Looking at that schedule, though, you got to feel confident under the 6.5 wins if you're making that bet on your side.
Yeah, it's tough to go under 6.5, I will say. You look at the beginning of their schedule, they're like Dallas, Joe. I mean, It's pretty easy. I don't know if there's an easier, beginning 6-7 weeks. At New Orleans, certainly winnable. Who knows who's at quarterback, right? Carolina at home, at San Fran, Seattle, Tennessee, Indianapolis. That's 6 games. If you can come out of there, dare I say, 5-1. Let's be. Listen. Realistically, 5-1's maybe you don't win at San Francisco, but the others, Seattle, Tennessee, at Indy, New Orleans, Carolina at home. If you're going to buy into them, they got to come out of that at 5-1, and at absolute worst 4-2. But they don't have like a brutal schedule. I must say, you got San Fran again at Tampa Bay, the Chargers. that little. At Tampa, L.A. Rams, at Houston is their 3-game gauntlet.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
You got to come out of that with at least 4 wins.
Here's another one, and I know, again, we're going to go to battle, you and I, but I believe the Jets exceed their win total this year. You look at their win total, it's 5.5, over minus 135, under plus 115. I'll alt that up to an 8-9 football team. Again, over 7.5 wins, you get plus 220. I think they could beat the Dolphins at least once this year. Obviously, they could beat New England twice. So there's 3 wins right there, Scott. You look at their schedule, again, manageable. I understand it's the AFC, but look at the last 5 games of the regular season. Miami, Jacksonville, New Orleans, New England, and Buffalo. I mean, all right, we'll give them the Buffalo loss. There's 4 wins potentially at the end of the regular season right there.
Yeah, but who knows what kind of, state of mind they're going to be in. If they're 3-10, we'll say, or 3-8, whatever it would be, are they going to be able to automatically win against New Orleans and New England and even Miami? Not necessarily. So they had the tougher schedule to start. They play Pittsburgh. That'll be a big game if it's Russell Wilson, which we figure it to be at quarterback. Then Buffalo. Now you're 0-2. Then you got to maybe split at Tampa, at Miami. You're 1-3. Then you come home against Dallas and Denver. It's going to be off the rails pretty quickly for this Jets team. And I have no faith in Aaron Glenn. I'm not saying he's going to be an awful head coach, but I don't have any faith in him, just like I didn't have any in Robert Saleh to be able to kind of correct and right the ship here. That they could be, a lost cause by the time they get to the end of the season.
No, I agree with you.
It's not hard getting 6 wins. I'll say this. You got to be really, really bad not to get 6 wins. So if it is 5.5 and if it's not too juiced, I probably would go over, but I wouldn't go 7.5 to get it to 8 wins or anything along those lines, or 8.5 to 9.
Let me ask you this. This week 1 game against Pittsburgh, that's not a layup. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Right? If Aaron Rodgers comes in a month from now, there's no guarantee he's going to walk in and throw for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns just because he's Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, and I understand Tomlin obviously has the head coaching, advantage over Aaron Glenn being a first-year head coach. But talent for talent-wise, offensively, the Jets aren't that far off. You can make the argument that, the skill players are just equal for the Jets over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, we don't know what we're going to get out of the Steelers offense this year, especially if it's Mason Rudolph starting game number 1.
I don't think it'll be Rudolph. And I'll take Aaron Rodgers over the Jets versus Justin Fields, who early reports say suck. What else is new over Pittsburgh?
Oh, I can't wait to have that debate. We'll look at some week 1 lines coming right back on Football Full Circle. Keep it where it is.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Light day around Major League Baseball on Monday. The Tigers beat the Giants 3-1. Milwaukee nipped the Red Sox 3-2. The Cubs scored a 3-1 win at Wrigley over the Rockies. The Orioles beat the Cardinals 5-2. Shohei Ohtani hit a leadoff homer for the second straight game as the Dodgers beat the Guardians 7-2. The Reds over the Royals 7-4. The Mets beat the White Sox 2-1. Tampa scored a 7-2 win at home over the Twins. The Diamondbacks shut out the Pirates 5-0. Ryan Nelson went 6 2/3, just 4 hits allowed, 4 strikeouts. In 11 innings, the Padres beat the Marlins 4-3. San Diego scored the winning run on a wild pitch. The Yankees beat the Angels 5-1. 7 strikeouts in the victory for Ryan Yarbrough. NBA, the Thunder beat the T-Wolves 128-126 to go up 3-1 in the West Final. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MOVE to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MOVE for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MOVE for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
You're listening to Sports Grid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, breaking down Week 1 action, we took a look quickly at some of the Week 1 lines, discussed the line of the Pittsburgh Steelers 3-point favorites over the New York Jets. Have to be honest, I like the Jets plus the 3 points with Justin Fields. I'm not sure there's consistency in Pittsburgh. Not sure what you're going to get from an offensive perspective, no matter who the quarterback is. Scott leans to the Steelers in that matchup. But we talked in the break, Scott, about how high all the gurus are on New England and Mike Vrabel, right? Like he's the Bill Belichick savior of this organization. He's just going to waltz in with his, white horse, and this team is going to win 8 or 9 football games. They're 2.5-point home favorites to the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And when you look at Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, that's not even a field goal favorite at home. I like the Raiders Week 1. I mean, I don't know. That line to me smells, and I'm backing the Raiders to potentially strike the upset.
Yeah, you would think if they're so high on the Patriots to make them a 7.5 total, so almost 500 football team, right, 8 and 9, that they would be at home a bigger 2.5-point favorite than the stinking Raiders. Is that love for the Raiders or hatred for the Patriots? But again, why is their number is 7.5 then? Yeah, I'd probably go Raiders too. I don't have any faith. I don't know what they're seeing in this Patriot team that makes them all of a sudden, become a valuable, member of the NFL again. I don't see it. 8 wins is a lot of wins for a quarterback, Drake May, who, showed some promise last year, but he wasn't like over the top, like, oh my God, he's the greatest thing in the world. And, remind everyone, about Mac Jones a few years ago and how he looked his rookie year. And then, where is he now? This Patriot team's going to double their win total from 4 to 8. That doesn't make any sense. And then the line, if the total's 7.5, then they should be at least a 3.5, if not 4-point favorite, and they're clearly not.
Right. And here's the thing: do we really give Vrabel the coaching advantage over Pete Carroll with 6 months of preparation? I don't. It's not like he's going in there with a rookie quarterback. You're going in there with Geno Smith. You have Ashton Genty. You hope that Max Crosby and that defense, especially in Week 1, give it a dominant effort, right? So, I mean, I sort of like them. Plus 130 on the money line, I think is intriguing to me. Total-wise, I think I would take a shot on the over 42.5 just because it is Geno. It's a different offense, and you got to believe that Vrabel's going to open it up to some capacity, right? 42.5, I would lean to the over, but I like Las Vegas. Another one that I think is fishy, and I bring up fishy because this team has started slow year in and year out, and it's the main reason why they didn't make the playoffs, and we're both high on them. Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow typically struggles with Cleveland. 5.5-point road favorites. Total is only 46.5. Scott, they lose this game, they're going to have to answer major questions, especially after both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase got their money.
Yeah. Could you imagine after losing last year? Remember who they lost to last year? The New England Patriots on opening day.
And then week 2 to the Browns, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. It was up, if not week 2, then 3. Yeah. I mean, so who knows who's going to be at quarterback for the Browns? I mean, it could be, this would be one of those dangerous ones. If you told me it was Joe Flacco, then I'd be like, okay, I'll take a stab on the Browns. If you tell me it's one of the rookie quarterbacks, showing, whatever, then, or Shedeur Sanders, then maybe I would go Cincinnati. This is a weird one, but you would think Cincinnati would be chomping at the bit to get this season started, correct what they did wrong last season. And, it's not easy winning a game by a touchdown in the NFL, but this is a rivalry game. I would lean towards Cincinnati.
Yeah, so they beat Cleveland 21-14 earlier in the year, right? 2 years ago, They lost to Cleveland. They got smacked around with Joe Burrow. So, again, you look at the 2 games they lost out of the gate, 16-10 to New England week 1, 7.5-point home favorite. They followed that up, obviously, with the loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they covered that game. Trying to think, I think that was a 3.5, 4-point spread in that game. They lost it by 1, the controversial pass interference call. Then they come right out of the gate, and then they lose that Monday night game. That was the coming out party for Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. They lose 38-33. They have that type of start again this year. You have to start to question then Zach Taylor being prepared for the week 1 and the opening month of the regular season. This is not just a one-hit wonder. If you show consistent signs of not, living up to expectations and getting W's in the month of September, head coach has to go at that point.
Yeah. I mean, they got to win some of the better games, Joe. I mean, it's as clear as day. They're like the Dolphins. They did lose to New England, but otherwise, all their other losses were the playoff teams. Kansas City, Washington, Baltimore twice, Philadelphia, Chargers, Pittsburgh even was a playoff team. So they beat the teams they were supposed to beat outside of New England. So now they got to be able to find a way to get over the hump against some of the better teams. So they should beat Cleveland. They won by 7 last year on the road, and then at the end of the season when the Browns were a complete mess, they won by 18. So, yeah, give me Cincinnati in the game. I'll take my chance. I don't think it's going to be Flacco. I really don't. If Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns outside of an injury, then it's going to be a failed season for Cleveland.
Yeah, you look at the Cincinnati win total on the alt market. If you want to take a shot over 10.5 wins, it's only plus 135. You want over 9.5, it's minus 130. That's where they're pegged for this year on multiple books. FanDuel has them at minus 130 to the over, plus 110 to the under, right? So, again, they get a slow start. 10.5 might not be in the cards this year. I'm willing to bet on the over 10.5, but it's still a funny week 1 line because, granted, 5.5 is a number where typically I'm always inclined to take the points with the underdog, especially a home dog. But the fact that it's Cleveland and we don't know who the quarterback is going to be, if it's Kenny Pickett, would you take the 5.5, Scotty?
No. The only way I'd take the 5.5 if it was Flacco. He'd be the only one. Otherwise, yeah. Pickett, Sanders, kid from Arizona State there. Nah, give me or Oregon. I would take the Cincinnati laying the 5.5. And you look at the schedule, it's not a bad schedule to start. I mean, bad news is 3 of the first 4 for Cincy are on the road. But the good news is one's at Cleveland, one's at Minnesota, and Denver on a Monday night when crazy things can happen. And then they got a Jacksonville home game. They could be 3-1 before they really kind of start their season.
Right.
They should be 3-1.
Here's one total I love. Get your take on it. Week 1, Carolina, Jacksonville, total is 46.5. In Duval County, you got Bryce Young, you got Trevor Lawrence, former Buck coordinators, Dave Canales. I think it's points aplenty. I think that's a cheap line. 46.5, even though it's a week 1 number, I'm willing to bet it up to 47, 48 in that matchup.
Yeah. I tell you, I think it's interesting that Jacksonville's only a 2.5 point home favorite, right, over Carolina. I'm going to buy into Carolina. Now, you're asking them to win this game, basically getting 2.5. Hopefully it would go up to at least 3. But I think their offense showed a lot of life last year at the end of the season, right?
Okay.
New head coach down in Jacksonville.
How much you willing? 8.5 wins plus 190 to the over?
8.5, so they got to have a winning record.
2-1 almost.
I might do that. Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, without looking at their schedule, I would say, yeah, if it progresses, then yes. Saints are going to be awful. So if, Falcon game, they're both going to be winnable games. Tampa Bay, maybe you can get, a home win. So maybe you go 3-3 out of your division. They got a last place schedule, right? I think they finished in last place, not New Orleans. So maybe New Orleans did. But last place or next to last place schedule, either way. I could see them going 9-8, extra home game.
I think they have the potential. But I'd be more willing to lay the minus 140, 130 at over 6.5. We'll come back. We'll talk more specials on FanDuel. Coming right back on Football Full Circle.
Saying every Sports Grid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the Sports Grid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Wendy's. Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson has passed away. The Robertson family announced his death on social media Sunday at the age of 79. Robertson and his family were featured in the long-running reality series based in and around West Monroe, Louisiana. He had suffered numerous health issues, including Alzheimer's. 10 people were shot at a holiday party in Little River, South Carolina on Sunday. Police in Horry County say a fight started on a private boat hosting a party, which led to a shooting on the dock. At least one person not hit by gunfire was hospitalized. Some of the 10 shot were in critical condition. Investigations are ongoing. Gas prices remained steady during the Memorial Day weekend as millions of Americans hit the roads. As of Sunday, the average cost of a gallon of regular gas in the U.S. was $3.18 a gallon, according to AAA. That's the lowest for Memorial Day prices since 2021. I'm Trey Westerberg with the Sports Grid News Flash.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
Attention passengers, we've reached 10,000 feet and internet is now available for purchase.
I just paid hundreds for this flight, and you can't even throw in internet? I'll just take the free pretzels.
Sorry, but I do have snack boxes for sale.
I'm just gonna sleep.
In that case, we are selling pillows and blankets as well.
I'll just breathe. That's free, right?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Something amazing is happening here. Scientists are using AI to study how whales talk to each other. CDW experts can give researchers the power to process complex data with HP workstations, advanced by AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processors. With easier handling of AI workloads, your organization can bring powerful insights to the surface. Make amazing happen. HP, AMD, and CDW. Learn more at cdw.com/HPAMD.
Remember when you were thankful you could just get AM and FM? Things have progressed. Now even an app on your phone can give you a 21st century thrill with that little drop of heaven called the deposit notification. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, talking some week 1 lines, Scott and I gave our best and overs, unders, and obviously spreads, favorites, and some dogs that we like for week number 1. We'll be talking about it throughout the off-season and summer months leading up to the month of September. Scott, we did mention the future specials that are up on FanDuel. Some intriguing lines. We'll give a couple out. You mentioned the Killer Bees. Bengals, Bills, Broncos, and Bucks to all make the playoffs this year. 6-1. I don't know if that's a great number. 6-1 to make them. Now, this is part of the Kay Adams NFL Futures section that they have up on FanDuel. But Killer Bees, all four. We know the Bills, obviously the front runners to win the AFC East. No doubt there, right? We both believe the Bills should win the division. They're going to make the playoffs. Bengals are the ones that I really worry about. And the reason why I say that is we think this should be basically an 11 or a 12-win football team. But if the wheels come off again in the month of September, what happens then? I mean, there's only so much you can continue to climb out of a hole each and every year, right? It's one thing to do it one season. All right, we made it to the Super Bowl the previous year like they did 3 seasons ago. But they've done it now 3 straight years. And last year was 0-3. It wasn't even 0-2. They can't afford that. The pressure on this team to start fast is significant. And again, you have Burrow, but these games aren't easy. That would be the one for me. You mentioned the Broncos as being the outlier.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Broncos are the one. I'll put faith in the Bengals just because the division is coming back to the pack, right? Browns should be pretty bad. Pittsburgh, who knows what their situation is going to be like. And obviously the Ravens. Dolphins are coming back to the pack. I think the whole AFC in general is coming back to the pack, whereas I think Cincinnati can at least use last year's failures as a positive. So I'm counting on them. To me, it would be the Broncos. I will say this. If you put in all 4, Bills, Broncos, Buccaneers, Bengals, that pays plus 560. So it is better for you to put them in this way at 6-1. Sometimes you put them separately, and you find out, well, they're not really giving me great odds. I can put them in that way and get paid 660, but this actually does pay a little bit more putting them in for 6-1 here. So, but it's the Broncos. Division's going to get better and better. You're going to have that natural regression second year. We see it all the time. They won a lot of close games last year. On defense, that doesn't duplicate itself generally too often, back-to-back years. So I would think the Broncos would be the one that might give you a little bit of a scare with that one. But it's not bad. I mean, Bills are getting in, right? I mean, there's a no-brainer about that. To me, the Buccaneers are going to get in because I think they'll win their division. Those would be the two, and I would side more towards worrying about the Broncos.
How about this one? 3 or more NFC North teams to make the playoffs plus 350. I can't take that bet either. I know. We think Detroit's a mainstay, Green Bay, and then it's a flip between the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams. I'm not so sure both of those teams are there. I have question marks with both. Caleb, Ben Johnson, and obviously O'Connell with J.J. McCarthy. And I'm not so sure Detroit. I keep telling you this. I know on paper they're there, but with a new OC, a new DC, and again, we're not talking about a storied franchise and organization like, I'll just throw it out there. The Cowboys that had won 3 Super Bowls, the Giants, the San Francisco 49ers, right? This is the Detroit Lions that were knocking at the door and had basically a 24-7 or 28-7 first half lead over the Niners a couple of seasons ago and let that lead flip, right? Once you lose those type of games, and we know about them having the number 1 overall seed and getting kicked in the chops by Jaden Daniels in Washington, if you couldn't get it done, or at least make it to the championship, game as a 1 seed, there's no guarantee now with a new OC in DC that you're going to make it. And I would put a bet that they don't even make the playoffs this year.
Well, then that'll refute what I'm about to tell you because that's paying, $350? If you think the Lions and the Packers are going to make it, right? It's really a bet on whether it's going to be Minnesota or Chicago. If you put those 2 teams in there, Lions and Packers and Vikings to make the playoffs in that bet, that's plus 957. If you take out the Vikings and put the Bears in there, it's over 12-1. So if you're pretty confident it is going to be Green Bay, Detroit, and then the one other team, you're better off putting them in twice separately. To put a half a unit on the one with the Bears, and then a half unit with the one with Minnesota, and you're still going to make more than you would on the plus 350.
plus 172 to miss the playoffs for the Lions is not that great of a price. I know we keep talking about this, but plus 172, rather bet against them almost every game on the money line and see if you have a shot to win money that way. Again, I think they'll be a good team. I just don't think they'll be an elite team. I always think there's a drop-off when you have new coordinators. Even though it's a new scheme, you have, those coordinators need to get acclimated, a rhythm. They're like pitchers. I honestly believe that. You're seeing a game through a different set of eyes. They could be less aggressive or more aggressive than their predecessors. It's a lot of pressure on this team, Scott. And again, if you don't want to take the win total and you look at the win total for Detroit, would you alt it? Would you alt it down? If you're like me and you think that potentially they could fall off a cliff, would you take a shot at under the 8.5 at plus 250?
Oof. They're going to go 8 and 9. That's a huge, outside of a Jared Goff injury, that's a huge, huge drop. What they have last year, 13 wins, or 13 and 4, I believe it was. 14 and 3, 13 and 4, 15 and 2, even more than that. That's right.
Yep.
Great. Yeah, I can't do that. I don't think they're going to fall that much. Let's hope that Dan Campbell, eating some garbage there, uses that as a way to motivate the guys versus depressing the guys. What happened last season?
I still think the under 10.5 is in play too. Minus 120 isn't a bad bet up on FanDuel. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up right here on Football Full Circle. Coming right back, Lisi and Wetzel.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
Sports Grid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channel dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on Sports Grid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. Sports Grid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find Sports Grid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
It's stark but true.
You can either listen to Sports Grid for strategies, odds, and more, or you can pay your bills by digging in your couch cushions for change.
Just be sure to wear gloves.
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, wrapping up the show. An hour flies by when we're talking about NFL action. Week 1, other games. And we've seen a little bit of movement on this line, and rightfully so. And it's not a knock on where the Giants or the Commanders are going to be this year, but for a Week 1 divisional matchup game, and you're talking about a team not like the Super Bowl champs where you have the Eagles and Cowboys squaring off. where we see 6.5 in that line, right? At home for the Eagles. This line was 7 for the Commanders, right? It's down to 6.5 on FanDuel. You're seeing some love for the New York Giants. I actually think the 7 was pretty appealing for the Giants. You got Russell Wilson, a veteran quarterback. You have a coach and a team that has their backs against the wall, Scott. I mean, there is no tomorrow for this coaching staff. You give them 6 months of preparation, you would hope that they would challenge for a week 1 matchup. And you look at the 2 games with Washington last year. I mean, the Giants with Daniel Jones pushed the Commanders to the limit. That was the game you remember they had no place kicker. They lost it by 2 points. To give the Giants 7 at home for the Command, that's way too much respect for Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn, I thought.
Yeah, and they've historically played well. You know, it's a division game. You don't generally get, 7 points, a full touchdown in a division game. So you got 2 contests in week 1, no less. Yeah. You got 2 contests, one decided by 3 points, the other one decided by 5 points. Giants do well in Washington. You know, Washington does a little bit better in New Jersey. So I would, listen, you look at the Giant defense, I don't know if they make a run for the postseason, Joe. I don't even know if these coaches will be around next season. The quarterback figures not to be around, but I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year. The defense can be really good. Not just like average. I think they can be actually really, really good with Burns and Lawrence. The guys they drafted, Carter. If you get a little something out of Russell Wilson, if you can get what you got out of him last year in Pittsburgh with the Giants. He's got a big-time wide receiver in Neighbors. They might not be that bad. I would take the 6.5, 7 with them. I don't think that'll be 6.5, 7 by the time they kick off.
Would you take the over 5? Now, this line came out, I think, in the offseason. It was like 3.5, 4.5, and they bet it up to 5.5 respectively. Yeah. Over the 5.5 wins is plus 125. If, to your point, they over exceed. 7.5 wins, Scott, over is plus 360. 8-9 football team with Dable. Would you take a shot on that number? You got to give them 2 losses. You got to give them 2 losses in the division to the Eagles. Right. So there's 2 losses. Can they knock off the Commanders and Cowboys and go 4-0? If so, you take that bet in a second.
Yeah. I don't know how they ended up with the schedule they have, being a last place team, but man, they're non-division schedule, Joe. Kansas City, Chargers, so they're playing the AFC West. At Denver, San Francisco, Green Bay, at Detroit, they're playing the NFC North. Minnesota, okay, that's not too bad, but man, there's a lot at Chicago. They're playing the wrong team. They're playing the winnable games on the road. The Chicagos of the world, the Denvers of the world. You want those games at home. You don't want the home games like Kansas City that you're not going to beat Kansas City at home. You're not going to beat them anywhere. You might as well have that as your road game. Same thing with the Chargers. So they got it backwards. You want those winnable games at home to give you the ability to really win those games. So San Francisco, they're not going to beat a healthy Niners team no matter where they play. But I would still take a fly. Just in general, I think they're going to be better than what most people think. 8 and 9, they got to get out of the gates. It's not easy. At Washington, at Dallas to start, and then Kansas City and the Chargers at home. I mean, they're looking down the barrel of an 0-4 start. At best, right? 1-3. At best.
All right, here's another one. Cam Ward making his debut against Big Bad Bo Nix. Big Bad Bo Nix. 7-point dogs. I'll give you 10, Scotty. There is no shot they are beating Denver. I'm sorry, 41.5. I lean to the under. It's all Denver up to 10 points in that matchup.
I'll take Tennessee. I'll drink the Kool-Aid with Cam Ward. I'm gonna be anti-Denver this year, and I love Bo Nix. I do. I appreciate everything he did last year. They won way too many close games. Them and Washington both way too many close. You want to give me a full touchdown? Give me. I'm a big believer in Cam Ward. I would have given him 5 first for him.
Well, 5? What are you, Mike Ditka? Unbelievable!
RG3. Absolutely, take my whole draft.
For our great producer Danny Ohlers and Scott Wetzel, I'm Joe Lisi. We'll see you tomorrow on Football Full Circle. Have a great day, everyone.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.